until she shot her first animal, and then
Of
everything
course.
is great.
Total
And
sense.
then, and then she shot his big axis. She goes, "It's going right there, right in the middle." I can't.
It's cool though. That's awesome. Yeah, you get them hooked, and it's a whole different thing. My wife just got. Well, she's been wanting to hunt for a couple of years, but this has been her first year getting out in the woods and doing it. And she
Uh-huh.
missed a doe the other day, but the fire inside of her after that, she was like, "Oh my, that's never happening again." I'm like, "It's gonna happen again," but I love it. Like,
Uh-huh.
I love the just getting lit up about it. It's cool, man.
Yes.
But Doc,
Like,
how are you, dude?
good, man. Very good. I need to get up there.
You do.
Hot and cold, hot and cold. But yeah,
Same.
I need to get up there to visit you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We, in the rodeo season, we're just kind of wrapping up the. It's really the start of the new year, but we're getting ready for NFR. So all of our athletes that qualified for the finals are kind of getting into that prep work, and we're coming off of a season of professional rodeos hard on the body. Thing
Yeah.
I know that you are an expert in, and I really want to chat about peptides. And there's a huge spotlight on them right now. There has been for a while. I think it's been increasing, right? The standard BPC-157, what is it, TB-500, and
500.
yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What NAD, like
Yeah.
so many of these athletes that aren't even my own athletes, just guys that I know that are trying these peptides, and I have no idea where they're getting it from. Some of them are taking them orally, some of them are taking it subcutaneously. Like, what is the deal with peptides, and do they work? Are they effective? If so, how? And I'm asking you because you and I have chatted about peptides. We started chatting about them a decade ago, dude. Like you
Yeah.
have, so I really think this would be really helpful for our listeners to kind of get the lowdown on what's really going on with peptides.
Yeah. So I'll kind of just keep it to like what we see like real life clinically,
Mm-hmm.
because, some people say, well, there's not a lot of research. There actually is. I mean, one of the simplest ones is BPC-157 and TB-500. They work very, very well synergistically. To me, it doesn't really make sense to use like one and not the other.
Okay.
They use them. There a lot of times they'll use TB-500 only if there's been like an acute injury, and BBC just, ongoing. They both are just totally fine. So peptides, just from a basic standpoint, peptides are just proteins. They're just linkings of different amino acid sequences, and they kind of get this magical term, but peptides have been around forever. Insulin is a peptide.
Mm-hmm.
Human growth hormone is a peptide. Now they're different sequence amino acids, but they are made to do specific things, right? So when you look at the history of BPC-157, that goes way back. I mean, if you remember Pavlov,
Mm-hmm.
Pavlov's dogs ring
Yep.
the bell. He was one of the first ones to be documented to use BPC-157, but he was using gastric secretions of dogs that he had available for experimenting.
Whoa.
And he actually was kind of labeled as a snake oil salesman after a while, because what he was doing is he was gathering. So BPC-157 is actually a 15 sequence amino acid that we get from like gastric secretions,
Our belly.
but they get it and synthesize it from the gastric secretions, but it's a specific sequence of 15 amino acids. So he was drawing it actually from the dogs and actually bottling it and selling it as a stomach tonic. And people just didn't know exactly what it was. It was working. But BPC 157 orally, and that's a distinction. Okay. You see a lot of people on social media that are kind of promoting it as like the oral works for the joint pain and the
Mm-hmm.
recovery. And in most cases, it really doesn't. Oral BPC 157 works very, very well to like heal gut issues. If somebody has some kind of gut dysbiosis, some kind of like IBS, IBSD, irritable bowel syndrome with diarrhea, or IBSC with constipation. And then all kinds of, you hear people about, with leaky gut and all kinds of other issues. That's another thing that like 10 years ago, people, all GIs would have laughed you out the door that, oh, there's no such thing as leaky gut. And today, now it's literally recognized. I had a patient that like was the same kind of deal. Like 10 years ago, she went to her GI and said, I think I have this. And they said, no, you don't. There's no such thing. And then she kind of fixed her own gut. And then 10 years later, she goes and the PA walks in. This was a couple of weeks ago. She walks in and she says, I think you have leaky gut syndrome. And she goes, y'all told me that there was no such thing 10 years
Yeah, a
ago. But
decade ago.
yeah. So BPC, it works better for any kind of healing injury here called the Wolverine peptide.
Mm-hmm.
You have guys on, so it's super hot because it's proliferated all over social media right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, and people are asking like, have you heard of this? And I'm like, yeah, just like you said, we were using it, like
Long
recommending
time
it
ago.
like
Yeah.
10 plus years ago because the research was already there. It was a lot of it was preliminary, animal and, you know, model studies. And the thing about it is that, people want to wait till there's like specific, you know, peer-reviewed long-term studies. And yeah, those are gold standard studies. But the thing about it is like anecdotally, like you're seeing so much in the real world as far as like guys injecting it. They've had tendonitis for a year. They can't get rid of no matter what they do, and soft tissue work and grafting and all kinds of stuff. And then they inject BPC for 5 days, sometimes a week, and all of a sudden it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what we see over and over. It just works really well to heal like minor injury. Now, if there's a structural injury, right, like a rotator cuff tear,
Right.
an ACL, it's not going to magically fix
No.
a rupture. But if there's like most cases like tendonitis, tendinosis, which is like a fraying, any type of inflammatory process, it knocks it out very,
Okay.
very quickly because of like potent anti-inflammatory benefits of it.
Dude, that's awesome
Yeah.
information. So when you're is something that I want to locally, like in that area, inject it, or
Yeah,
is it something that always goes in your belly?
near.
Or okay.
Yeah. So most people will say, like, you'll hear both sides. They're like, oh, if you just inject it like, subcutaneous, in your love handle, it'll go systemic. Yes, but we do see people have much better response if they inject it near the area of injury. Okay. So it doesn't have to be like right in the area of pain. So if they have, elbow injury or something, they can do it near, like in the forearm, or they can do it in the deltoid. But yeah, we just see it migrate to the closer you do it to the area of injury,
Mm-hmm.
we see better results. And then on the flip side, you also see people that just inject it systemically and have good results,
Right.
so there's no one way or the other. With BPC and things like that, it passes my test as far as what's the risk benefit ratio. Like the only contraindication would be active cancer. That's
Mm-hmm.
with any peptide. That's not to say that it causes cancer. So some people make that leap. I have heard people online saying, "Oh, it's going to cause cancer," just with it's a incorrect extrapolation and kind of a jump because it's never been documented. But it's got super high benefit, low to no risk.
Mm-hmm.
So, it passes that test. To me, the benefits far outweigh the risk as far as any kind of peptide. Now, there's a different kind of peptides, and you kind of hit on a couple of different ones, and they're kind of the same, kind of not, but like NAD, glutathione, like those are more
Yeah.
on so NAD is more of a vitamin, a B3. It's a derivative of B3 or niacin. So it's something that maybe you may not benefit from if you're 20, 30 years old because NAD stores are pretty high still. But the older we get, 40, 50, that we get depleted, and depending on injury, it's a really, really great energy producing molecule. It increases what we call mitochondrial biogenesis, or it makes the body make more mitochondria, which we tend to lose as we age,
Mm-hmm.
due to age and injury and all kinds of like insults. But
Getting kind of
NAD,
like cellular health there.
yes. And that's where a lot of the emphasis is now as far as aging is we're seeing, aging at the cellular level.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many things now that actually affect aging and inflammation, or what we call inflammaging, like aging from inflammation, through NAD. And NAD, as healthy as you are after 50% is gone in your system. So a lot of it is just replenishing what's gone now. Orally,
Liposomals mostly is what you see.
yeah, lipos like Row and a
Yeah.
couple of those.
I started with it.
They have about a 30 to
That's
50%
what I was gonna say,
absorption
probably
rate.
30%. Yeah.
Yeah. And so over time, they have shown where the precursors like nicotinamide riboside, NR, or NMN, like nicotinamide
Mm-hmm.
mononucleotide, like those precursors, they will make the body, they'll induce the body to make more NAD. But in like sub-Q injection is like 98%, like 90 plus percent, 98%.
Mm-hmm.
And then IV obviously is 100%. And but most people are not going to go get IVs. I do them regularly at the office,
Mm-hmm.
but that's more of a go in, get tanked up, and then follow it up with,
Sub-Q.
injections or,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you're
that's
basically
kind
like raising that threshold in a big
Yeah.
way, and then you just continue to do maintenance on it essentially.
Yep.
Cool.
And being that it's a vitamin, I mean, again, high reward, low to no risk. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, NAD is made in the body, and we have NAD. We can't live or function without NAD. So it's not introducing anything that's like foreign.
Mm-hmm.
So that even like trumps even the naysayers as far as like BPC and other peptides, because it's more replenishing kind of what we've lost.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing that we're learning with aging is it, the whole thing, and the emphasis of my practice is more like aging better. We have the tech
Yes.
now to age better, and it's not to just extend lifespan for the sake of extending lifespan, because we can already do that, but it's extending like your active years.
Yes.
Your good years, hunting at 90 years old,
Yeah. Yeah, that's the goal, dude. No, that's awesome.
So there's a whole bunch, but we could do an entire show on just peptides, or even just one peptide, going into like the science of the specific peptide.
We need to do that.
So,
that would be cool. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Hey, okay, why do you feel NAD? Like when I pin NAD, or especially if I have it in an IV, it's like you feel it.
Yeah.
Big time. Yeah. And
yeah, you'll get a vasodilation. So it kind of like, so it's a niacin rush. Like if anybody's ever felt like a niacin rush,
okay,
it increases niacin right away, and so you feel that kind of it's more of the vasodilation. And if you take too much, especially IV, man, it can make your chest tighten.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So you have to drip it slow. But even injectable, like you feel it.
Oh, yeah.
You definitely feel it.
I've been taking it for probably 3 or 4 months regularly now. Mm-hmm. And I started with the IVs. My wife's been doing same kind of service you guys offer, but just up here in Montana. And so she's like, you got to try this. I can't lie. At first, dude, hold you and you're like, what what is this? And it kind of makes you have to, it's like a mental check a little bit. You kind of have to fight through it and breathe through it. And I liked that part about it. So I've been enjoying that part, but I feel a difference. I'm noticing it big time because I'm sleep deprived, dude. We got a little kid. We just aren't sleeping well. I had a week where I didn't take it because I was in the woods and I was sleep deprived there. I came back and I was toast, dude. And probably took 3 days of getting back on it and getting sleep and getting some regular rest. And it was like, back to normal. But I've just noticed a difference in, instead of my 8 hours, I can function pretty well on about that 5 hour mark for consecutive days, as long as I'm supplementing with that.
Yeah. No, it's one of the few that you will feel like there's a lot of hype on social media on a bunch of different things. NAD stands up to the hype, but you also have to have a good product. So you can't just buy oral from Amazon.
Well, I was going to say oral is not, you're not going to feel that oral. Only IV or sub-Q is, you will feel it if it's a quality product. So if people, and dude, there's so many websites out there now that are just like peptides.com or whatever, garagepeptides.net. Where do you even start on getting a quality product if you're not going through
I would look for a doctor and get it from a actual pharmacy. There are some good peptide pharmacies, compounding pharmacies that are providing it, but injectable, you want to make sure that it's coming from a good compounding pharmacy and a provider that's knowledgeable with it. Seen too many issues with people trying to get it off just like peptide sites, because it's just, and the thing about that is there's no recourse. They'll sit there and go, well, it's pharmaceutical. And it's like, well, you can just stamp pharmaceutical on there, pharmaceutical grade, and it doesn't mean it's pharmaceutical. And they've tested a lot of them and done, assayed on a lot of these products. And they found that like 80% or more of them are adulterated, or, meaning they don't have what they say they have in them, or they have less of what they say they have in them. So, and there's really no recourse because, you're not supposed to be using it for yourself. They say it all over, it's not intended for human use. So if you use it and say it didn't work, you can't go back to the company and say, hey, it didn't work. They're like, well, why are you using it? So it ideally from a pharmacy, and there's a few really good trusted one, but one that I specifically use.
Cool. Yeah, agreed, man. If you're going to be putting anything in your body, I think you should do the research and make sure that it is a quality product coming from somewhere that you trust. Otherwise, you're doing the opposite of what your intentions are and trying to help yourself, right?
Yeah.
So I had a week of them just taking off. Like, don't think about rodeo. Don't think about working out. Just be with the family, get reset. And then we did about a week and a half of, it was mobility, but a lot of it was, we're getting back into some compound movements, very light, very controlled with tempo. We're getting into some of these, getting that strength and power back now, and getting them ramped up for the finals. And a lot of them they're getting sore post workout the next day. Obviously, we have split set up really well, but by that third day, they're kind of like, dude, I'm toast. And
Yeah.
you and I were chatting the other day about this, and mostly as a personal thing because my calves have been absolutely killing me because of all the hiking I've been doing. I probably put in close to 200 miles in the last 2 months. And man, like we're good to go. Thanks. And phew, it's rough getting started. And you were talking to me about this product called LactiGo. And I'm always a little skeptical because I've tried about every single topical, whatever muscle relaxer that there is possible, including like veterinary grade stuff. And some of it works, some of it doesn't, and most of it doesn't. But you told me, you said just try it, and I'm like, okay, so I do, and I put it on, and it doesn't smell that strong. It doesn't smell like it's gonna light me up, right? So I'm like, okay, like whatever. It works really well, and it's super subtle, which is the funny thing about it. Last night, my buddy calls me at sitting down for dinner. He killed the bull just a couple miles above us, so I went to help him pack it out. My calves and my knees have been hurting so bad, and I think it's because my calves are so tight, it's pulling on everything from my knee. But I was kind of dreading it, dude. And so I slapped that on before, and I'm walking, and I realized about a quarter mile in, I'm like, whoa, this feels good. Like you're doing really good. I strapped
Yeah.
90 pounds in my bag of meat. I walked another mile and a half back. Usually by that point, I'm kind of like the last quarter mile, I'm like, son of a bitch, just get me there. I was laughing, having a good time. My legs felt great. Woke up this morning, they felt great. What's in this? How does this work?
So really cool. It's important to point out it's unique and there's never been anything like it. We have the patent. So the patent is what makes it special. It's what delivers it, and that's why there's no other topical. Like we just won actually a lawsuit with J&J where they tried to come out with a similar product and they couldn't because of the patent. The LactiGo has something they call ethoderm, and it's a patented delivery system that drives it transdermal. But the main ingredient is L-carnosine. L-carnosine is pretty awesome. It has some magnesium in it too, but carnosine is a driver.
Wasn't back in the
Carnosine,
day that used for like weight loss?
well, carnitine. So a lot of people will say, "Yeah, I've used that," and I'm like, "No, not carnitine, carnosine." So carnosine is something that we have never. You probably heard it in another term, like beta alanine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so L-carnosine is a dipeptide of two amino acids, primarily beta alanine. The problem is trying to get it in orally, almost impossible. We have a enzyme called carnosinase, which breaks down carnosine. So carnosine is super prevalent in our tissues when we're young, up until about 20, which is why, say, like a 10-year-old can run, 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 and you'll never hear them say, "I'm sore." They don't get sore because they have a lot of carnosine in their muscles, heart, brain at that time. Also, if you remember, even back in the day when even up until high school, like we could do two-a-days, and yeah, you were exhausted, but you were never debilitatedly sore the next day where you couldn't continue to do two-a-days, right?
Mm-mm.
We had a lot of carnosine in our tissue, so after 20, it starts to kind of drop precipitously. So, and then it's very hard to replenish. So when you start looking into the data, there's 3,000 plus studies on carnosine. It was discovered like back in 1900, and it was like in the 1950s they started seeing it, mainly as a lactic acid buffer because it buffers pH, which is why it's called LactiGo.
Mm-hmm.
It buffers lactic acid, and so it doesn't allow your pH to get acidic, so you don't feel the burn. So lactic acid is going to make your legs feel like concrete, cause the burn, cause the soreness the next day or what 2 days after. But when you start diving in, so that's why a lot of the athletes have been using it. Okay. So when I was first introduced to me about close to a year ago, I was mainly just using it for athletes because that's where we've always used it. And hands down, it works. Every single person that runs and does CrossFit,
Mm-hmm.
I have text after office visit, after note to the very next day, they're like, "Man, I didn't believe you, but I tried it. And the very next day, like I didn't have any pain." So it has been working like, and so their hashtag is just like you said, is just try it. So we tell people, "Hey, I can tell you all the magical qualities of it, just try it."
Mm-hmm.
And when they try it, they're like, "Oh man, like it really works." So we could get way, way into the weeds about like physiology about it, but basically At its core, it buffers lactic acid. Now, when you start also, so in the beginning, I was using it for all the athletes.
So does it increase the athletes of their lactic threshold to go higher?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So you can push harder, longer, faster. And it's been clinically studied. So it's interesting to understand that this has been around already in the professional circles, kind of hush hush for about the last 5 or so years. A lot of people don't realize that the Racers Track Club, which has like famous Olympic athletes like Usain Bolt and Brittany Reese and all these people that broke records. So every single Olympic athlete in the last Olympics at Paris that won a medal or broke a record, that the records had held ever since the Russian, years.
Yeah.
And they broke the record this year. So any track and field athlete that won a medal or that broke a record was wearing LactiGo. The National Hockey League. So one of our owners, founders is Eric Fair, who's the Stanley Cup winner. And so it's already the official performance recovery gel of the NHL. So every NHL locker room has to have it for their visiting team and home team. This was voted on by the owners, trainers, and players. So it's not something that was bought in for a promotion or anything like that. It's work. So they all use it. Our chief science officer, Chad Macias, he is out in San Diego. He works directly with the Navy SEALs.
Mm-hmm.
And like he was telling us the other night, they're required to put it on AM, PM for training because it's a very real scenario where they may have to, run a 10K with a backpack and then get in a firefight, so they have to be ready to perform, react. So it's being used at the highest levels of like performance already. Washington Commanders just put in an order. Notre Dame football put in an order. We have it on the desk of a couple of other teams. AC Milan uses it, famous soccer team. There was a clinical study, you can look it up specifically, and I can provide the link, but it was done specifically on LactiGo by a Dr. Bevans down in New Zealand. He did it on the Rugby 7, the professional team called the All Blacks, which is a very famous team. And they did a really cool thing where they just had them put it on one side of their body and not the other. And that's kind of what we do. We tell people do what we call the LactiGo challenge, where like if you're going to do like a heavy run or leg day or something, put it on one leg and not the other. And you see an immediate like difference from one leg to the other. But that's how they actually studied it. And they did kind of the gold standard of studying, which is a Wingate testing, which is the bite.
Dude,
and they
that
showed
thing,
immediate.
Yeah.
They showed immediate peak power output and endurance with one application. So they said in the notes that one of the only things that would have afforded those type of results was using illegal anabolic steroids. And this is legal. So any UIL, NCAA, NFL, pro team. So it's already has the third-party tested informed sport seal. So no one has to be worried about like it having a banned substance or in it. But you literally just apply it topically to where it hurts and pain goes away and you feel better.
It makes sense now when you break it all down. So it's water based. I noticed that you don't need a lot to go a long way with it, right? When you look at any topical cream like that, and so I say cream because this isn't even cream, it's like a gel almost.
Yeah.
The decision maker in it being water based versus some other even way hard, and then there's others that are like more putty. What makes the difference in that?
It's just that ethoderm. So the ethoderm is what's gel like, and it's the compound that actually drives it into the tissue. So it's super cool. Like you could get, again, like Chad and our head of R&D, Tim Sharp, like these guys are been in the lab with it for close to 10 years. And, they could explain it to the cellular level of how like it uses atmospheric pressure to diffuse into the tissue. Basically, like we've done lactate like threshold testing and you literally get 100% muscle tissue saturation in about 30 minutes versus orally you'd have to take it daily at high doses of beta alanine like to maybe get 50% absorption in 6 months. So that's what it is. It's speed. Science equals science meets speed, basically. The carnosine has been around, we've known about it, but it's never been able to. How do you effectively get into the tissues when you're talking about a population like bull riders, bronc riders? I mean, anybody on a horse, anybody in rodeo, period, you're always going to be beat up. You're always going to be, tweaked. And literally it has been, it's just something you can, throw on. It's not, invasive to where you're doing injections and oral and all these, taking pills a day or whatever. You can literally just put it where it hurts and it makes the pain go away.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a whole lot of reasons when you look at the science behind why because it's not specifically a pain gel,
Right.
but it makes pain go away. Okay. So like we have people with like joint pain and, tendonitis and all these things, but it's been super cool because 100% it works in the sports, realm. And that's where I was kind of focusing on.
Mm-hmm.
And medically, I started just like using it for everybody. And that's kind of where the story took off because the company was trying to push forward, push forward, push forward. And I think I remember like reaching out to you like months and months ago
Mm-hmm.
about it. And it just kind of like fizzled. And then it's super cool. The way it happened is a patient of mine, he's been a patient for years and years. He had a really cool story with it. So he had throat cancer. He speaks almost like RFK. Have you ever heard RFK?
Mm-hmm.
So he had throat cancer and had radiation, and that's what caused a lot of the damage. And when he was in my office, it was about 2.5 months ago, he came in and was like, hey, I'm done. I have like 9 out of 10 pain every single day. He goes, radiation hurt my neck. I have constantly tight muscles. My neck's tight. I can't sleep. He goes, I need something. And I said, well, I have this gel, you should try it. And so the next morning, like clockwork, text the next morning or an email the next morning, he says, hey man, like what's in that stuff? He's like, 5 minutes after putting it on, I had no more pain.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, I haven't been like that in over a year. And he said, first off, I'm not a placebo guy, so I'm the last one anybody should try anything on because nothing works on me. And he said, so what's cool is I didn't know his background.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it did, kind of didn't, but super cool, unassuming guy, extremely uber wealthy. Okay. So he says, get me in touch with the CEO, get me in touch with this. I'd love to learn more about the product. So I hook him and the CEO up. And all I do is get a text from the CEO and he says, thanks so much. He's a great guy. I think we found our missing piece. Right. So then I from him and he texts me and he says, hey, and he was retired. He goes, by the way, I'm no longer retired. He says, I've paid off all their debts. I've become their largest investor. He goes, I'm pushing the company forward. He goes, I believe in this product. I feel like it's my moral obligation to share it with everybody. And then since that time, like it's just been like taken off.
Mm-hmm.
And also what the cool thing is now I'm seeing the data on it and the background medically, what it does. I've started sharing with every patient and now like patients with like diabetes, with neuropathies, with restless leg syndrome, which is like, we were giving gabapentin hoping it worked. But now there are a lot of side effects with gabapentin. We're seeing, no more restless legs, no more cramping, no more
You think that's because
neuropathies.
of the magnesium in it as well?
If you look at the studies on carnosine, there's studies on carnosine lowering hemoglobin A1C.
Whoa.
It also tamps down what we call AGEs. AGEs are advanced glycation end products. Those come from eating a lot of sugar, high sugar diets. And if you think about AGE, like it ages you. AGEs, when they build up in our system, that's what causes wrinkling of our skin. That's what causes hardening of the arteries. That's what causes a lot of the issues that we're seeing from metabolic syndrome. So when you block the body's ability to get rid of AGEs in the body or prevent their buildup, you have all these downstream effects, neurovascular improvement. So we have people that have brain fog and all these issues from metabolic syndrome, and it's helping with all that. So any neuropathies, any tendon, any pain, it's helping. Probably the biggest one is people with fibromyalgia, which there's really no great cure for, and they're seeing relief in about 3 to 5 days with this, just putting it on twice daily. The most profound one that we saw was 23-year-old girl with MS. She had tremors, really bad tremors. Her voice was really shaky. I don't know if you're familiar with the actress Selma Blair. She had really bad shaky voice and could barely walk and had tremors. And this girl had the same thing and was in a walker. Okay. So 3 days after starting the LactiGo, her tremors went away. And then 7 days in, she got muscle control back of her legs and started being able to like walk better. Little by little, in about a month, she was no longer using the walker, now using just a cane.
Whoa.
And her voice doesn't shake anymore. Her, hands don't shake anymore. So it's like doing things like that medically, and it's so super, super cool. And I mean, we're seeing this is just what we're seeing in the office. So, but again, you could go into like we do a whole podcast on like the science, but there's specific benefits from like telomere improvements, like on DNA. So they call it the longevity molecule. So
Mm-hmm.
when diving into L-carnosine, like if you can just type in L-carnosine and heart, L-carnosine and brain, L-carnosine and any condition, fibromyalgia, there's pretty good chance that there's already a study on it.
Okay.
It's just how to get it. So that's the big thing.
3,000 studies on the item
Just
there.
corns.
Yeah,
Mhm.
alone the
Brain's
body and
levels.
effect. Yeah, that's super cool, dude. And talk about just non-invasive, like so non-invasive.
Yeah.
It's like try it.
Risk benefit ratio. Like it's
exactly.
like, you're not injecting anything. You can apply it. It ain't gonna hurt anything. That's what I tell patients. It's just try it, and that's all it takes. And then we literally can't keep it on the shelf because somebody comes in and like we had a guy yesterday came back in and bought 4 bottles because he's like, my brother needs to try it, my dad needs to try it. So it's really cool.
Oh, I'm definitely gonna order some more bottles as well. Like I said, I'm always skeptical, but it works. It works well, and the price tag is not expensive.
Yep.
Very
No,
very
50
standard.
bucks.
Yeah, for a bottle
Yeah.
of any kind of.
They
type of
also
thing.
have like if you share it with 2 people, you get a bottle free.
Oh, sweet.
So yeah, so like if you try something and it works, you're gonna tell minimum
Yeah.
2 people.
Absolutely.
So they'll give you a free bottle whenever you share it with 2 people.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have a link in the show notes for everyone listening. You guys can go check it out. We'll get some of these studies on the show notes as well, so you can look into that and get yourself some LactiGo if it's something that you think will help you. I'm a believer and big fan, dude. And you mentioned we could do full episodes on all those things. We need to come back and do a full episode on a lot of these because I'm getting questions from the listeners about this. I know they'll want to dive deeper, and we can set up a time, and then we got to get you up to Montana. But you're kind of, unless you missed out on the really good time to come.
I just want to see mountains
and
and hunt
mountain lions this winter.
That'll work.
See mountains and wild stuff.
That'll work.
Heck
That'll
yeah,
work.
dude. Well, I appreciate you coming on this morning.
Thanks for having me on. Just let me know if there's any specific compounds or anything that people want to know about. We can do a full show on it. But I've been excited about a product like this, I don't know, as far as I can remember. I mean, the results we're seeing, super unique in that there's nothing like it. That's the biggest kicker, because a lot of people are like, well, if this thing is so great, how come I've never heard of it? It's like, we've never had a way to deliver it. And just say, like with any tech, as delivery systems improve and technology improves, we will find solutions to certain conditions, ailments, injuries. And this is one of them. So I would urge everybody, especially in your community, to at least try it. So
yeah, dude, I agree with that 100%. Okay, I do have more questions actually. This is off the base a little bit. I want to talk about testosterone for a second because I mean, you were the one who introduced me to it, and I've done a ton of reading, mostly that you have shown me, like, check this out. There's so many different perspectives, if you will, or approaches to how docs or providers are doing this, and I've even noticed a little bit just how different everyone's approach is, which kind of worries me sometimes, because you and I, again, you've been around this for decades, literally way before it was ever really talked about. And I've got some athletes, they're like, yep, my doc says I pin once a week. And I'm like, oh, we got to change that, right? What does a guy do, or even a woman, like how about getting to a good place and finding out if hormone therapy is even something for you?
So testing, obviously, and somebody that knows how to decipher the testing. The problem is, are they going to follow the standard of care, which is actually antiquated, the once a week dosing? Every guy will tell you that does that. Will tell you that they feel good for about, because they're doing a large dose a week. And the problem is with the half-life, and that's the problem, is that it's about a 7-day half-life, but in truth, you inject a big dose on a Sunday, well, by Thursday, Friday, you're already feeling some therapeutic from over the weekend. So there's, what we've done over 10 years now is we've broken it up the same dose. You can do the same dose and break it up That's what we found is best for consistency compliance, right? But in reality, I mean, some guys are doing it every other day, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Some guys are doing a small little insulin needle. Honestly, one of the best ways is to mimic what your body does
Mm-hmm.
and do a small like insulin sub-Q injection daily, because
Mm-hmm.
that's like how the body works. So overall, it's going to be lower dose, more frequent dosing.
Okay.
It doesn't, as some people believe, and even some doctors and providers believe, cause what we call stacking, where you just build up, build up, build up
No.
because
Yeah.
of the half-life. The best approach should be the best dose is the lowest effective dose, period.
Mm-hmm.
The dose where you feel well, okay? Because you can't just also look at a number and go, hey, I'm at this, therefore this, because a lot of doctors, providers will just look at their total testosterone.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, that could be kind of deceiving if their free testosterone is not ideal, because they could have something called SHBG, sex hormone binding globulin, that's very high. It'll block the conversion of total into free. And I've had multiple guys that have come in that have a good total, but a low free. And they have all the signs and symptoms of, low testosterone.
Mm-hmm.
Some of my guys will get to just a 700-800, but they have a very low SHBG, so they're high converters. So they're right at a 200 plus
Yep.
on their free. So 200 plus is kind of a number that has been identified by probably the top guy in the world. His name's Dr. Abraham Morgan Taylor. If anybody ever has questions about testosterone, that's who you should go to as a source. Dr. Abraham Morgan Taylor, he's a Harvard professor, Harvard urologist, has written many, many books on testosterone. One's called Testosterone for Life. He was the guy that was doing testosterone with patients in the 80s when like nobody else was doing it. He was on this podcast, and I'll never forget. He said, yeah, I would go to my endocrine buddies at Harvard and say, what dose should I give? And they're like, well, we don't know. Like, we don't even do testosterone. So he would figure it out on his own.
Yeah.
And so talk about like somebody that's always been in the testosterone space. Like he was like his undergrad, he did like testosterone testing in anal or some lizards or something. Like he was always in the testosterone field. So he's the one that along the way has developed a lot of the, positional stances showing that like testosterone does not cause prostate cancer. And actually low levels do not, protect you from prostate cancer and could increase the risk of some aggressive prostate cancers. And also the cardiovascular benefits. So recently, about a year ago, the black box warning was taken off of testosterone because for years it had a black box warning that it could increase risk of MI or stroke. And it was based on a faulty study.
Dude.
And the faulty was a TOT in older men study in the VA.
It's so crazy, man. Like that study is nuts. And the amount of times I've had to deal with primary care physicians jumping my ass about like years old is wild. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but we've been learning all this together, like with other docs.
Yeah. And so primarily because they see the hemoglobin hematocrit go up a little bit. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like if somebody goes up to Denver, Colorado, to altitude, their hemoglobin hematocrit is going to go up slightly. Yeah, we monitor it. We like to keep it at a good level, but what are the red blood cells? What are the platelets? It's not looking at one thing in isolation. It's everything. So yeah, I mean, there is a threshold where we do say, hey, you need a blood donation, but at the same time, lower the dose, because here's the thing is anything that's, testosterone, any adverse effect caused by testosterone are all temporary and reversible. So any kind of hair loss, hair growth, acne, elevated hemoglobin hematocrit, if you stop testosterone, it goes away. So, but then you have symptoms, right? So it's finding that fine line between, feeling well and not having, side effects. So that's where the lowest, effective dose comes in. But for people that have it, and here's the deal, like we're seeing younger and younger and younger men and women have low testosterone.
Of things.
Combination.
Death by 1,000 cuts.
Yes. And the other thing too is that like we've seen it in like fertility studies. Like there's been fertility studies. I was just going to
ask
that over the last like 30, 40 years showing a decrease in fertility. Well, it stands to reason that, as sperm counts are going down, testosterone levels are also going down. They're made in slightly different cells in the testicles, but still receiving the same input. So here's the thing with that. People say all the time, they're like, you didn't check my cortisol. I was like, okay, cool. You have high cortisol. What are you going to do? And there's some adaptogens like ashwagandha and things like that, but that's a whole other story. I have yet in over 10 years of practice seen any patient lower their cortisol and raise their testosterone, especially if they're over 40.
Well, we're talking
Is
about
it?
two different things there.
Yeah.
They don't come from the same thing.
Yeah.
If that
Well,
makes
the theory is like if you look at the hormone cascade, it does come before testosterone. So the theory is that if your cortisol is high, you have a finite number of cholesterol back to make hormones, and that if your cortisol is high, that it's stealing away from
Oh, I
testosterone.
see. Okay.
So they're saying if your cholesterol is high, but again, I think a lot of people have this misguided, thought or belief that if you lower cortisol, like you can lower cortisol with a supplement, and has it been done? Possibly, but the thing about it is like, what I tell people, then they ask me, it's like, well, how do I lower my cortisol?
Habits.
I've seen them do that. And because in my practice, I'm not just going to say, here's the pill or here's the
Right.
hormone. I look at their diet, nutrition, their exercise activity, their sleep, their emotional, spiritual, mental health, then their medications. But I have yet to see somebody take a testosterone booster and raise their testosterone. Ashwagandha. And because here's the thing with ashwagandha, going back to DNA and genomics,
Mm-hmm.
may or may not have the gene snip where it even benefits you.
Right.
And, so ashwagandha is one of those adaptogens where it's supposed to, lower cortisol. And there's like phosphatidylserine. There's a whole bunch of like compounds and components that like supplements that people take to lower cortisol. And yeah, and some people like they can take like adrenatone and some supplements to like if they're in this constant, fight or flight stress. But I've yet to see anybody address that and then magically raise their testosterone.
Right. Right.
Absolutely, like absolutely. But now you can speed up the process. Like that's where the whole like biohacking comes in. And there's like two good kind of modalities, machines that we recommend to patients to kind of control their cortisol. And there's like a wearable called Pulsetto that they
I've
can wear
seen.
later.
Yeah.
There's another one called Hap B, and that one also does it through frequency, but developed by DARPA, like by the military
Yeah.
for, soldiers. So that's where the Hap B came from, was from military research. But those two have worked really, really well for people.
That's cool. I saw that Hat B at the tactical conference this year. They had
Yeah.
they set you in a chair, and then it's like
Mhm.
maybe 10 minutes
Yeah.
or something session.
You can take focus
It does all
or
kind. It stimulates the
Yeah.
nervous system in all kinds of ways.
even THC. Like you can have a thing that
Really?
says like THC, and it'll make you feel like you've had some THC. It's crazy.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
That's
Without
wild.
THC.
Hey, can we talk about the girls for a minute, because we're
Yeah.
we're talking about fertility and testosterone, and I don't think the majority of females realize how important testosterone is for them as well, and how it works with estrogen, same as guys. I mean, we have both in us as well. Can you just chat about the basics of what I think women should understand about hormones and those two specifically?
Well, like what most women and providers consider menopause is just at the very end when estrogen drops. That's just it. Okay. The truth is testosterone is the first one to drop, and is actually drops about 10 years before menopause. So if you look at the average onset of menopause, let's just say somebody has not had a hysterectomy or any kind of like cyst problems or any kind of ovarian issues. Okay. 47 to 52 is the average onset, right? So about 35, 37 is where we start to see women have lower sex drive, lower, drive, just brain fog, fatigue, some weight gain, things like that, just symptoms. And they've kind of relegated to, well, I'm getting older. Oh, this is what 40 feels like. But when you start looking at it, like testosterone drops first, and then about midway in the 40s, progesterone drops next. And then they have problems with like moodiness, irritability, especially the week before the period is kind of patterned. And also sleep issues. So they'll start to have sleep issues. You start progesterone, and it'll a lot of times alleviate those. But again, getting tested. And then the very last one to drop, and that's when they have hot flashes, night sweats, all these hot flashes, vaginal dryness, a lot of the other symptoms of low estrogen happen at the very end.
Okay.
Now, if you go to a conventional OB that hasn't gone to any up-to-date training, they'll be like, "Oh, testosterone does this," and they're actually wrong. The data is actually there. There's a lot of data actually on testosterone for women. A lot of studies. it is just you're just gonna face whether they're biased for or against, right? Now, from a testosterone standpoint, it really helps if they start that, because here's the thing, just as men are dropping testosterone, just because the studies are being done in men, it's ridiculous to think that they're also not dropping in the population in women. Okay. And it's just now they're getting more information about it, like testosterone for women that start testosterone, you're going to need it anyway at menopause. I mean, you're going to need it. If you get tested and it's low, it's great to start, because what I see in my women that start testosterone first, even if it's 10 years before, they kind of just slide into menopause. Like they don't have the in your face, abrupt, hot flashes and I'm miserable, I haven't slept in 4 days. They just kind of slide into menopause if they've started testosterone early, because they've already started supporting it. Also, it'll aromatize into a little bit of estrogen. So women that have had like vaginal dryness, but they still have like not full blown low estrogen, it'll alleviate that vaginal dryness for and lubrication for some women. And so but again, I have just woman after woman after female coming in going, oh my God, like I got my life back. I feel better. My drive's back, and they'll tell you, because people will come in and they'll say, yeah, like I have no sex drive. I used to have a sex drive. I love my husband. I'm attracted to him. I just like don't want to, but I do it for him because I know he has needs. And then on the flip side, the guys are like, thank you, hon. I love you. I appreciate it. But we want you to want to. And then it starts like issues in the relationship and things like that. And it's like, well, something wrong with me. And then they start having, what's wrong with me? And it's nothing. It's just hormonal. I even have recently I have 3 women that are in active breast cancer treatment that their breast oncologists, they're up to date on data, have sent them back to me to continue to do testosterone. Now we've halted their estrogen while they're doing breast cancer treatment, and we'll revisit that in a different arena. Sometimes they can never have estrogen, but it's been shown where they can continue to have vaginal estrogen. Testosterone, they'll send them back like no issue, because there's no connection back. There's more data showing breast cancer prevention with testosterone.
Dude, that's cool.
But as far as relieving symptoms, you got to correlate it with symptoms. Like number 1, see if they have low testosterone, and then 2, see if they have symptoms, because sometimes there's rarely, but I've had some women who are like, no, I don't have any symptoms, and there's other issues going on.
Yeah.
But it is well needed. It works very well. And the attention to it is starting to get brought to it, especially now, like Halle Berry was on going, oh my God, I started testosterone. It changed my life. I've been on it for years. And it's starting to be more accepted in mainstream. But I mean, we've been doing it, God, 10 plus years great results. So
it's all coming to the surface, and so many more people are becoming educated and wanting to know more. And with that comes so much misinformation. And I feel like anything that gets demonized, for the most part, that half the population say is good, ends up being pretty good.
I would say more than population. I think the other half of the population that doesn't know, like, just either hasn't been exposed to it or just hasn't read the data, because the data is there. Women make testosterone. I mean, they just do. I saw a provider saying, telling some of the patients, like, no, you should not take estrogen, causes cancer. And I'm like, show me one bit of evidence that shows. I mean, again,
the last time you took a class, sir. They read one book. That's being a little bit harsh, but they get one train of thought. And we had a doctor on the other day. His name was Dr. Vic Carsreds. He's actually down there in San Antonio, not far from you. He's awesome. But he's like, the doctor means that they are an expert in that train of thought. Like, that's it. It doesn't mean that they are, this all-inclusive, like, know-all thing. That train of thought, and that's it.
Well, medicine has become very siloed, meaning it's just like, I only do the heart. I only do this. I only do this. I had a guy come in last week, and, they just had him on a statin, and his cholesterol was actually super low, like way too low, to where he's having symptoms. And cardiologist was super happy about it because lower is better to him. But, I showed him data showing it, he can't get too low, and he had all the symptoms. He had like just really bad brain fog, joint pain, bad issues. But the flip side of that is he was pre-diabetic. And I said, hey, man, yeah, you got good numbers. I said, but what did he say about your A1C? He goes, oh, he said I need to go see an endocrinologist. That's one of the main causes of heart disease. Not, you could lower your number, your LDL, and you're pre-diabetic. That's shredding your vessels. Like, that's going to be the very first thing that puts you at risk for a heart attack. is you don't die of diabetes, you die of a stroke, you die of a renal failure, you die of a heart attack, you die of vascular issues. That's why people get neuropathies and start getting their circulation issues. It's all vascular. So if you're not taking care of the blood sugars, you're not taking something that could affect the heart, So, but you can give a statin and it lowers a number. Doesn't always lower the incidence of heart disease if you're not looking at all the other factors and his blood sugars and everything else. So, but yeah, I mean, unfortunately, like medicine, especially like primary cares, and it's become. And I was in that world for a while, and it's just sick care. And you have 5 minutes, one problem, one ICD-10 code I can use, and then I refill their meds. But there's no talk about how do I stay healthy, how do I prevent injury, how do I
well, look at half of those guys, man. The guys that are giving the advice, they don't look like they could walk down the block without getting out of breath. It's like they're sitting there telling someone to lose weight, and you're like,
thank God there's a lot more awareness going on, and there's people taking kind of their health in their own hands, which can be good or bad. So the internet's good and bad. As they come in, sometimes what they feel is very well educated, but they're not, and they think they have this, that, or the other because the internet told them.
Oh, dude, it's the worst. It's the worst. And like we just said, with all of the educational stuff comes the misinformation that follows it or comes before it to try and demonize it, sway you one way or another. But really, thank God there's docs like you, man, that are out there and doing this the correct way. And, I think most people think about someone that makes a living with hormone therapy, you'd be like, yep, everyone needs it. And that's just never been the case with you. And you said that in the show already, like, get your blood work done. That's where we start. Do you even need this? Are you having symptoms of this? Yeah. And then back to just the testosterone, you're sharing about the dosage, like the least amount that is giving you the effective response. That is what is appropriate, right? And like we said, I've been on this for over a decade, and the doses have changed over the decade. The more frequently I feel better. And it's funny, my hematocrit and hemoglobin, if I pin every 4 days, will be high when I run my blood. If I pin every 2 days, it'll be normal. And I read that in one of the books that you sent me too. It's like that controls those levels. And I have a different provider now because I'm in Montana, but I start talking to him about this, and I could tell it pisses him off because he's just like, what the fuck does this guy know? You know what I mean? But I'm like, no, I'm telling you right now, like, that's what's going to happen. And so when I started, he's like, what's your doses? I told him, he's like, oh, we recommend twice a week. There's no real studies on the 3 times a week. He goes, but I wouldn't be surprised if that is the thing in 3 to 5 years, was what they tell you.
Yeah, you're not doing more, you're not doing a higher dose. It'd be different if, like, overall for the week you were doing a much higher dose, but overall you're doing the same or lower dose when you're doing it more frequently, and it allows it to be a little bit more physiologic, closer to what you do when you were making it.
Yes.
But yeah, lots of myths and misconceptions with testosterone and even with providers still. So yeah.
Man, I appreciate you coming on and helping us bust some of those myths today, because this was I learned a lot, and I think everyone listening is going to get a lot out of this as well. And we'll plan another episode here in the future. But y'all, go check out LactiGo. Go check out the website. They have all of the science there. I was just checking it out. You can make yourself a little back office and use your link and get yourself some free LactiGo as well, just by referring the product. And again, I'll have a link for everyone in the show notes to go check it out and give it a test. But Willie, have a great day, brother.
Have a good day. Take care. It was good seeing you.
Guys, until next time. See ya.